Hi, welcome back to the Healing Medicine Show. I'm your host, Blair Thielemeyer of Pharmapreneur Academy. This show is a show that provides a platform for health and healing professionals to grow in their understanding and practice of what it means to be healers. So, we aim to provide healthcare professionals with these resources and also inspiration for both personal and professional development practices, especially those that are rooted in holistic health. We really believe that the change in healthcare starts by focusing on the health and the healing of the healthcare professional. So if you have a colleague who would enjoy this show, please send them the link to subscribe to this newsletter to get notifications when our show goes live. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Vicki Shumulinsky. Vicki, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is such an exciting topic and initiative. I'm so honored to be a part of it. Yeah.
I appreciate it. And we connected through a mutual friend. So shout out to Jessica. And when we're talking about, especially women in the healthcare business, she said, "Oh, you have to meet my friend Vicki. She's amazing. She's got, such a great story." So I want to really start off this interview here on LinkedIn Live by asking you, what does healing actually mean to you?
So good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing this topic to the world. I think it's so important. And from me personally, from my personal experience, I've found that healing is has been really everything to me. I've past been healing. I'm healing in this moment. I will be healing in the future. I think we are all healing consciously or unconsciously, really. But I do think that healing is kind of like a conscious mindset. We can have issues, physical, emotional, mental issues, and know that they're there, but are we actually willing and focused and intentional around healing those aspects of ourselves? And I think that healing is also a very multi-dimensional, kind of multi-layered topic. And so the way that I see healing is from a very holistic standpoint, which many of your viewers probably see as well. But specifically from my journey, I see it from a physical standpoint, but also emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetic. And so I can just start by telling a little bit about my own journey, my own healing journey, and how I've come to this conclusion of this holistic view of healing. And so should I go forward and talk about my,
You've already said some things that I'm like, ooh, conscious healing is a conscious mindset. That's a really interesting idea. So yeah, what can you explain a little bit more? What does that mean to you, and what does that look like specifically on your own personal healing journey?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll just use the year of 2019 as this kind of ending of part of my life and the beginning of another part of my life that really started and jump-started this healing journey for me. And so, I did all the things with my education. I have a master's degree in healthcare administration. I went to school at Ohio State University. I got an administrative fellowship out in San Diego. And like really my life was centered around my career. This is how I grew up. Education, such a strong part of my cultural upbringing. And so I did all the things. I got these, wonderful, amazing jobs in corporate healthcare environments, hospitals, as well as nonprofit organizations focused on research and policy. So I had a good, decade plus long career, kind of climbing the ladder, doing the things. In personal life, I was in relationships, I had friends, communities, all the things. But underneath all of that, I was codependent. On everybody but myself. I didn't trust myself. Never really listened to myself. Yeah. Didn't really understand what intuition was. And if it was there, I didn't trust it. Right. I was and still am this like perpetual perfectionist, really not able to move forward. It's almost like in the past it was very kept me small, trying to be perfect at everything. And that's really a function of my growing up. And I felt really lost in my career. I didn't feel like I had a purpose. I was working up this ladder, this corporate ladder to nowhere. And really what I was seeing around me were wonderful, amazing people that had amazing gifts and leadership skills, but didn't have work-life balance, didn't necessarily, just things in the corporate world that didn't resonate with me. And I was working towards something that just wasn't where I really wanted to go. So in 2019, it marked the end of this long-term relationship that I had that really kind of like pulled out the rug from underneath me, like a foundation was completely like crumbled, to nothing. And that was the point where I consciously decided. It was almost like I was propelled energetically and internally to move forward out of that life that I thought I was living toward, that I was working toward, and start something completely new. And again, in the beginning, it wasn't as conscious as that. I just started mindfulness practices, meditation. I began to really connect with like the mystical arts, the spiritual communities. I began to really actually train in energy healing. So I'm a Reiki level 2 Reiki practitioner in the Itsui system of Reiki healing, and that really opened up like a whole new world for me in terms of my understanding my own gifts and my and my purpose really in life. And so what I call this in my world is this like self-discovery boot camp that I took myself through, in the beginning unconsciously, but then consciously, very much so, surrounding myself with the people that were kind of discovering themselves themselves, right? And being a part of this like larger movement out of unconscious living, and being almost like a victim of, a recipient of life, to co-creating with the universe, co-creating with life, and really connecting with my purpose. And so in this period of time where I was going through this like self-discovery boot camp, I hired an intuition coach. I went through several group programs, one around pleasure and self-love. I connected with these like really just amazing healers in ways that I didn't even know healing existed, mostly through the energetic and like psychic realms. And in that time, I found the love of my life. I quit my job, started a full-time business in helping people along their own path, their transformation path. I found my gifts. I discovered gifts within myself that I didn't even know existed, but have existed there all along. I also realized that I was part of a lineage of energy healers and herbalists and in my ancestry, which is just such an amazing like opening in my life. And I finally, I feel in this moment that I'm so connected with my purpose here on earth through healing all parts of myself. And that's why I think about it from a physical, not only physical, healing standpoint, but emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetic. And those are all that's the framework kind of that I use for the work that I do now, and also for my personal self-care practice.
And that's the whole reason we talk about this on the Healing Medicine Show, is because the current medical model doesn't take all of those things into account. So you're inadherent to your medications. So I'm a pharmacist. I work with a lot of pharmacy businesses and organizations. So okay, the problem is you're not being adherent to your medication. Does that stem from a deeper issue? Maybe it's self-worth, maybe it's something else. But I love what you said about self-discovery. So for me, really thinking about what you want to do in your healthcare career, you have to get back to that place of really being able to discover, why did I even go into healthcare, in the past? Like what drew me to this path? And now that I'm here, because we've spent so much on our education, we've spent so much on investing in this life that we thought that we wanted, that we were told this is what everyone wants. And so really feeling that if you want something different, you're kind of made to feel like an outsider, like you're the only one that feels that way. So I want to thank you for sharing that, because I think, things like perfectionism, things like being an overachiever, being a people pleaser, I would say it's more common, especially in women, and maybe even more common in the healthcare and helping professions. Because when you look at codependency, there's also this complete giving over of oneself to someone else's needs, and not really being that for ourselves. So when you said no work life balance, when I hear pharmacists who come to me wanting to start their own business because they don't have a work life balance, that's something that we can start working on immediately, is like, where do those personal boundaries need to be around you so that you can have the time to kind of refill your own cup. So I
Yes.
know you really you talk about, you talked about your patterns and healing from old patterns and conditioning. What is your opinion on the healing, the kind of viewing the old patterns or conditioning in the healthcare system in general? Like, where do you see we could maybe have an impact on healing the healthcare system?
Ooh, so good. Yeah. Such good questions. I think from the individual standpoint, I think that we all have, first of all, traumas, whatever, what you small t, large t traumas, in our lives from childhood, and also just conditioning, like you said, from society, who we're expected to be, who we should be, and also just patterns, however, whatever kind of pattern that's been created in our own minds to keep us safe, keep us small, keep us comfortable. And so for me, like a pattern would be that I would take the lead on things, and I would put, raise my hand to do the things. And then once I was in that position of leadership, I would start to doubt myself. I'd be like, why am I here? This imposter syndrome, or this perfectionism that would come up, where it was so debilitating. It didn't let me like move forward. So those are the kind of patterns that I worked with, that I'm still, consciously very much healing within myself. And I think that a lot of these patterns, and almost like I call them energetic blocks. I think that everything comes from energy. We are energy, and energy is our greatest asset. And I think that there's multiple ways that we actually get blocked in our personal, in the personal and individual level, which could arise from denying our true self in some way. And so that's where that self-betrayal and self-trust comes
Mm.
in. I also think that wearing masks around the world. You're one person at home, but at work, you're a totally different person. You don't show emotion. You're not, whatever that looks like. So taking off the masks, looking at your true self, like that is really looking, that is the practice of looking at our deep kind of inherent conditioning and patterns. And I think that from a healing standpoint, from the healthcare system, I think that from a systems perspective, I feel like there's probably another show completely like hours worth
Right.
that you could talk about, like systems, right? And the fact that the healthcare industry right now is called healthcare, but it's actually sick care, and we're not looking at the root cause of these issues. My understanding, or my belief, and my actual knowing and practice is that when we have energetic blocks, physically, emotionally, mentally, that causes blocks to kind of show in the world. And so any ills, the ills of our healthcare industry, are really I think a symptom of us unconsciously working from a space of ego, driven by power, by money, by whatever drives our egos to make ourselves feel better and look better in the world. And I think that, so again, there's like systems level changes that I think can happen. But I think from a holistic and like healthcare and wellness standpoint, complementary and alternative medicines are very much so being introduced to the healthcare system. I think it was as back far as like the 90s, where nurses or other clinical practitioners were actually trained in Reiki and using that with using
Cool.
it with their patients. Yeah, and so there's a long history to it, and all the way to today, where it's almost kind of normal, and people understand what that looks like in the healthcare world. It's not necessarily that every nurse or pharmacist has Reiki training, right, or any kind of other energy training, but it's so much more adopted today. And I think that, and now, Johns Hopkins University, I believe, has this center for complementary and alternative medicine research. It's becoming kind of mainstream. And so bringing those holistic and really non-Westernized perspectives of healthcare to the healthcare industry is and will continue to be a really big impact on the systems. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love what you said. It's interesting that things happen in cycles, right? And so we spoke with Dr. James Marzoff last week, and so he was one of the very first med school classes that actually learned acupuncture, in med school. And so we were just talking about the usefulness of even understanding the pressure points and the energy points in the body, or reflexology, for a surgeon that's able to recommend, post-op acupuncture care, or even leading up to surgery to begin to move some of those, energies that tend to build up in the body. So if you study reflexology and some of those things, that there are certain tissues that hold tensions. And so you also talked about trauma and how that affects kind of our worldview. So, to me, that I think of a scenario when, in school, I was kind of, I was a know-it-all, whatever, but like raising my hand, and I was told, you need to let someone else talk. Like you talk too much, or you're too much, or you're a smarty pants, or you're bossy, or like some of those words that we, not intending to do any harm, because I think when people think trauma, they think big T trauma. But those traumas that kind of get stored there, that kind of go, oh, maybe I shouldn't talk about my business too much because people are going to think I'm megalomaniac. It's like those internalized self-limiting beliefs around what we're capable of. Oh, I could never meditate because my brain's on fire all the time. Okay, well, yeah. So, all that everyone's is, and that's a good thing. But just like any other muscle, it can be trained. You can focus this energy. And so when I was able to kind of start learning more about myself and going through the process of self-discovery that, like you talked about, I was able to begin taking off these masks that I put on. And I remember writing an essay to get into pharmacy school, talking about how important herbal medicine is, and how I wanted to go study this novel drug development in the Amazon rainforest. And so I've always had these, I call them pings. So if you're watching and you're thinking, okay, I've had these little pings, these little curiosities, these little synchronicities throughout my life, that it's always been super weird, but I've always been interested in, this one thing. And for me, it's been plant biology, but for you, it might be something else. It may be, Reiki energy, or yoga, or Chinese medicine, or whatever. So when you start looking at the patterns in your life, and you begin to see kind of these similar threads that have been building throughout your life, for me, that's when you can go, okay, now I can look back at all my past experiences. And because our businesses are an act of self-expression, that's what kind of allows us to step into this new identity. So for me, it was really like seeing myself as a healer. As a pharmacist, I never saw myself as a healer. I saw myself who could recommend a medication, recommend, an OTC, or recommend some kind of herbal natural product. But I didn't seek true healing until I had kind of gone through and started doing this work. So I think there's a lot of different modalities of healing that we can begin to see. That's why I really feel that it's important for healthcare professionals, to me, to begin to kind of see themselves as more healing, offering healing medicine than offering kind of a band-aid type of medicine.
Yes, definitely. And I love the idea of using different modalities, because yeah, we go into pharmacy school or medical school or whatever kind of education with this very strict curriculum, and this is kind of like and there's obviously some very fundamental stuff that you need to learn as a practitioner of any kind of healing art, but I do think that the opportunities, the modalities that exist, the opportunities that exist, the possibilities out there around healing are just so vast, and it's also very intuitive, intuitively led. And so I think you touched on something there with the pings and the synchronicities. If we are all trusting ourselves in that way, where we get a little bit of a intuitive insight, whether that be where it is that we want to go in our lives, or ooh, that person is not somebody that I want to be associated with, or that first impression of others. It's truly, I mean, it's an understanding of energy is what it is, because we're sensing energy kind of around us. It might be coming from the spiritual plane, where we don't see it coming in, but it might be coming in through our crown chakra, or it might just be our aura, picking up energies. And so just in general, tapping into and understanding your own intuition and how that and trusting that as truth, rather than trusting the conditioning, trusting the self-limiting beliefs and the patterns that literally go on in our heads all day long. Really understanding the difference between the two. I mean, it really comes down to awareness, self-awareness of self. And I think that again, going back to those modalities, I think that mindfulness, using tools like your own breath, breath work has been literally transformational for me in my life, for my body, for the people around me. Energy healing for yourself, it doesn't mean that since I'm a Reiki practitioner, it doesn't mean that I have to be working on other people. I can self-heal. I can see where blocks are happening within my body and heal myself. Feeling developing relationship with your own feelings. Feelings are also energy, and they also get blocked and stuck within ourselves if we're not releasing in a healthy way. Releasing attachments, whatever that looks like, from a emotional standpoint, from an energetic standpoint. Those are all things, I wouldn't say specific modalities, but like tools that we can use to begin to clear ourselves, begin to start to see clearly as to what it is that we're here for, what is our purpose. And I really think that aligning with our purpose is this really like beautiful idea, but unless we're doing all of these inner self healing discovery of ourselves, if we're not able to actually be able to see what it is that we're here for. And that's very much like, I think, related to career and an experience of my own, getting clear about what I'm here for.
Yeah, I think for me that was kind of my entry into this space. I was trying to do goal setting. I was trying to do vision casting. I was trying to find my purpose, find my passion, whatever that means. So that was kind of the way I got into the, more, I would say more spiritual, mental, emotional healing parts. You and I talked a little bit about energetic sovereignty. And so I wanted to ask you about that, because I think that that's a very interesting subject. And if you're thinking about wanting to develop intuitive gifts, to be able to listen to biofeedback in a real, useful, clinically applicable way, some of these practices are very simple. It can just be, a mindful minute. It can be a breathing exercise. So it doesn't have to be a big production that you're going to see someone. A lot of this can be done on the self. So what does that word energetic sovereignty mean to you?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, so as I stated earlier, I believe and I know that energy is our greatest asset. We have energy to give. We have we can receive energy from others. But first of all, understanding your own energy is super important. That's where stillness and mindfulness really comes into play, is when you are still, when you are of course, there's other ways to be mindful when you're not necessarily still sitting in meditation. But I do believe that stillness and sitting with yourself is an understanding of yourself. What is brewing within, feelings, thoughts, ideas, what's coming through, where might you feel a little bit blocked? Where might you feel a little bit low? That understanding of your own energy is like foundational kind of first step. But ultimately, I believe that energetic sovereignty is where we stand in and feel secure in our own energy. We have the ability to nourish our own energy. So exactly, I mean, whoever's listening and to you, Blair, like what fills our energy, what makes us feel alive. We also know what depletes our energy, what pulls from our energy. We have the ability to clear our energy, to ground our energy, really get grounded into the earth and into our bodies. We have also the ability to protect our own energies, whether that be through setting boundaries physically or energetically. And I believe that because it's our most kind of powerful asset, we can use it to heal ourselves. We can use it to heal others and to direct our own energy toward projects and people and things that fill us, that align with what it is that we're here to do. And so I think, again, it's holding strong energetic boundaries, understanding how you want to be related to, connected with, how you want to give of yourself, but doing it all very consciously. I think that is like the fundamental of energetic sovereignty, really understanding your energy, knowing how and where it flows, and then using it, leveraging it, leveraging your energy and your gifts toward, making an impact or whatever your purpose is on the planet.
Yeah, I think that intentionality is the thing. Is like, what is your intention going into it? Maybe I talk to a lot of healthcare professionals that are suffering from burnout. And so, to me, burnout is a function of doing things, getting outside of that balance of feeling alive, of feeling that vitality, of feeling the emotions of joy and fun and gratitude. And so gratitude for me was always a really great place to start whenever I kind of, say we get into the spiral, we get into the anxious thoughts, we get into I'm burned out, I hate my job, I'm burned out, I hate my job, just kind of spinning in that place where we're not really going anywhere else. So what I try to do with my clients, and especially we've got a new retreat center in Costa Rica that we're going to be able to offer a week-long health and wellness retreats for healing professionals there, that brings back in this joy and this playfulness and this kind of like childlike presence in your life. Because if you're always kind of saying, okay, well, I'm just working for the weekend kind of person, but I really don't enjoy what I'm doing, for me, my mission is really to help healthcare professionals get to that place. And sometimes it is as simple as creating a time and creating space in your life for the stillness, for the meditation, so that you can ask yourself, what's brewing, what's coming up for me. That's a question that I constantly am asking my clients. When I say this, what's coming up for you? And so it just helps to facilitate those conversations. So final question for you, Vicki, for the healthcare professional that's out there is like, I don't have any idea where to start in this the whole process. It seems like overwhelming. There's so many different modalities. There's so many different things that they could be doing. Where would you recommend that they start? And what are some resources that have helped you?
Yeah, wow. Well, yeah, I will say for the basis of what I offer and what I think is the solution to a lot of what you've just described as to what we're all going through as a collective is self-care. Okay, and I'll describe a little bit more about what self-care looks like, but it's also this healing, this idea of healing. I love what you just touched on with the gratitude and the playfulness, because healing does not necessarily have to be this hard work where we're like looking down at a piece of paper trying to look at our shadows and all of our
Right.
traumas from the past. It could be connecting to our hearts through creativity, connecting to our inner child through playfulness. It could be any of those things where we're gratitude, where we're connecting to the goodness of life, connecting to the goodness of our own hearts, and kind of where we're going. And so, yeah, again, from a self-care standpoint, the first thing that I do with all of my clients through my group programs and my one-on-one coaching that I do is ensuring that we have a mindfulness practice and a self-awareness practice. Okay. And so if any of your audience is going through, is in a space where, you're lacking clarity, you're not happy with your job, it's just like you said, these patterns and this kind of, you're digging yourself into like a deeper hole day by day, it coming back to yourself, getting still, finding yourself through a deep meditation practice is going to be like the first and foundational tool, really, to get yourself to a place where you can recognize, okay, this is who I am today. This is where I want to go. These are the blocks. This is what's blocking me from that path. And then looking at those blocks and starting to take aligned action toward whatever it is that you're creating in your life. So, I help my clients by helping them or encouraging them to create desire lists. Like, what do we actually
Oh, I love that.
desire in this life, right? Because if we don't know where we're going or what we desire or dream of, then the journey itself is just like flailing and we're all over the place, right? But desires, and we actually are, it's a very it's especially for women, like actually stating your desires. I found more so with women, stating your desires is a very difficult practice. So I make all my clients, right? Yeah, connect with their desires, with their hearts, in that way. And I work with a lot of corporate women that are burnt out, that again lack that clarity of what their purpose is, that can't prioritize themselves. Finding 5 to 10 minutes a day for yourself, and that doesn't have to be just the exercise or just the eating well type of thing. It could be 10 minutes to let yourself cry into a pillow because you had a really tough day. It could be standing up after that meeting that you had where somebody yelled at you, where you stand up and just shake it off, put on a song, and you're actually like letting go of the energy. It could be following the moon cycle, setting intentions at the beginning of the month, and then releasing what no longer serves in the middle of the month. Finding time for yourself daily it's non-negotiable. Self-care is non-negotiable, and self-care doesn't have to look a certain way. It could be physical, it could be whatever you need. Maybe that's more sleep, maybe that's eating intuitively, maybe that's letting go of emotion, or really writing down every fear scenario that you have in your head into your journal. Or maybe it's connecting with your altar and your grandmother who passed away, that you still feel with you, and just spending some time with her, with your altar, or doing any kind of energetic practice, whether that be movement or releasing or whatever. So these are just like some topics or some ideas of things that we can do to heal ourselves, because as healthcare professionals and practitioners and healers, we cannot be healing others without giving from a full cup. We have to fill our cups first. We have to, and it's like the oxygen mask, analogy that everyone uses. It's true, and it's fundamental to being, making an impact through healing, with your hands or with your knowledge that you have in the world.
I love that. And thank you so much for sharing that. So many great tips and ideas. For me, journaling got me through the pandemic. You know, the meditation, like all of these practices came into my life at exactly the time that I needed them the most. And so I want to encourage you, if you're out there watching right now and you're thinking, yeah, I'm kind of interested, you know, contact myself or contact Vicky. We both can help to, you know, we want to support you on your healing journey. We want to put you in contact with whatever feels in alignment with you. So if you're feeling that little ping, that little pull to go in a certain direction, don't be afraid to share it with us. We're here. We're hoping to help. And Vicki, I just want to thank you so much for joining us here on the Healing Medicine Show.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful just for the opportunity to get this information out to the world. It's hugely important for to improve the healthcare system and to improve the quality of life of our healthcare professionals. It's exactly what I think we need. So thank you so much, Blair, for putting the information out.
Well, thank you. And if you're joining us here, you can join us for all the Healing Medicine Show by subscribing to the Healing Medicine newsletter. I will post it in the comments link below. Again, feel free to share this episode with a colleague who you think would find it beneficial. And we will catch you next time we are live on the Healing Medicine Show. Thank you so much for joining us here.